In a week already thick with political noise and economic confusion, a single headline has begun to spread faster than anyone expected. Food prices to drop? Alberta signs new U.S. export contract. But behind the polished statements, behind the smiling podium announcements, something else is moving quietly and out of sight. The story begins with a contract. Or at least, that's what we're told. According to officials, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith met with representatives from the Trump administration to finalize what is being described as a historic agricultural export agreement. The words prosperity, growth, and relief for consumers have been repeated enough times to feel rehearsed. And maybe they are. Because only hours after the announcement, hints of irregularities began to drip out, not from whistleblowers, not from reporters, but from the numbers themselves. The export volumes don't match the production rates. The projected price drop doesn't align with current market pressures. And the most unusual detail of all, no one can clearly say what is actually being exported. Officials say it's grain. Others say beef. A few say a mix of commodities. But someone, somewhere, seems to be hiding something. Prime Minister Mark Carney, usually calm, calculated, and difficult to read, addressed the press briefly after the signing. He offered reassurance, clarity, and confidence. But his tone carried a tension that didn't match his words, as if he was choosing them very carefully or avoiding others entirely. Meanwhile, public excitement is growing. People want lower food prices. People need lower food prices. And that need alone is powerful enough to blind almost anyone to unanswered questions. Still, there's a detail most people missed, a single sentence buried at the very end of the government's official statement. A line so vague that it almost invites suspicion. Further operational elements of the agreement will be communicated as logistics allow. What elements? What logistics? No one is saying. And yet, rumors are spreading. Some claim Alberta quietly reopened older, long-inactive storage facilities near the U.S. border. Locals report unusual nighttime truck activity, convoys moving without markings, and deliveries logged under classification codes used only during emergencies. Others insist it's routine, nothing more than supply chain synchronization. But if that were true, why are American officials refusing to confirm what shipments they're preparing to receive? Why does every answer sound like a placeholder? Why does every official smile look tight, strained, almost worried? Farmers across Alberta are just as confused. Many of them say they've had no new contracts, no new quotas, no new requests. If we're exporting record volumes, one farmer said, shouldn't someone tell the people actually growing the product? And then, there's the strangest part of all. Certain economists are privately warning that if the deal is real, truly real, food prices shouldn't drop. They should rise. So what's going on? What is actually inside those shipments? Why would both governments push a message that doesn't match the math? Some analysts say the answer may lie in internal political pressure. Others whisper about shortages. A few, too few, suggest the contract is simply incomplete, rushed for publicity before details were finalized. That explanation would make sense, if not for the confidential memo that surfaced 2 days later. A memo referencing Phase 2. No context. No timeline. Just 2 words. And a signature. Not Danielle Smith's. Not Donald Trump's. Not Mark Carney's. Someone else. Someone who, officially, has no role in agricultural policy and no public reason to be involved. Since the memo's appearance, both governments have denied its authenticity. They say it's fabricated, meaningless, internet chatter. But denial came so quickly, so forcefully, that even analysts who normally reject conspiracy theories are raising an eyebrow. Meanwhile, prices at certain grocery chains quietly dipped by a few cents, just enough to spark attention, not enough to reflect a major export shift. A move that feels deliberate. Like testing public reaction. Like setting the stage for a larger reveal. And yet, the largest question still hangs over everything. If Alberta truly signed a historic export agreement that will lower food prices, why does every person involved seem uneasy? Premier Danielle Smith insists the deal is straightforward. President Trump calls it a win-win victory for both nations. Prime Minister Carney says it's a long-term stabilizer for North American food systems. For days, analysts tried to decode the inconsistencies of Alberta's mysterious export deal until a new detail emerged quietly, almost accidentally, from an unexpected source. A retired logistics coordinator from southern Alberta claimed he'd received an automated notification from a system he hadn't touched since leaving his job years ago. The message referenced priority clearance, contract routing, and a date that, strangely, occurred before the signing was publicly announced. The man insisted it must be an error, a glitch, an outdated system auto-firing. But experts who examined his screenshot noticed something unsettling. The routing code used was not one typically assigned to agricultural shipments. It belonged to a classification usually reserved for strategic materials. Yet Alberta's government hasn't produced a single statement acknowledging any logistical discrepancies. Instead, they've doubled down, calling the export agreement a breakthrough that will reshape consumer markets. Prime Minister Carney even mentioned emerging efficiencies, a phrase so vague it sparked an entirely new wave of speculation. Meanwhile, in several Alberta towns, residents swear they've heard low, distant machinery after midnight, steady, rhythmic, almost industrial. No one can confirm what it is. No one can trace it. And officials maintain that everything is normal. So why are border checkpoints suddenly operating under extended hours? Why are transportation manifests being sealed instead of released? Why are analysts being warned quietly, off the record, to avoid speculative commentary? Something doesn't add up. Perhaps this contract really is the solution everyone's been waiting for. Perhaps food prices really will drop. Perhaps Alberta truly secured the most efficient agricultural agreement in North American history. Or perhaps the contract is simply the visible surface of something deeper, something that officials are not ready to reveal, or cannot reveal, or hope will remain hidden until the public is too invested to turn away. In the coming days, more information will emerge. Statements will be refined. Numbers will be corrected. Questions will be redirected. But until someone finally explains the inconsistencies, until someone publicly confirms what is actually being exported, until someone clarifies the meaning of Phase 2, the truth behind Alberta's mysterious U.S. export contract will remain suspended between possibility and danger. A promise of lower prices, a contract no one fully understands, and a story that feels less like policy and more like a fuse. Because if this agreement is what they say it is, everyone wins. But if it's something else, something concealed behind economic optimism and political celebration, then the biggest question isn't whether food prices will drop. It's what's coming after they do.